It's for... Oh, crap. Feedback detected. Oh, man. It just turned me off. It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and what the heck? This is just a bad tech day. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Let's try this again. It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. And the crowd goes wild. We are so sorry, you guys. It's happening again. We're having server issues, we believe, with the Wirecast server. Colin's got great tech on his end. I've got great tech, and all of a sudden he's just like totally pixelated, but we can hear him. So we're going to do this. And if it gets really bad, we'll just stop the show and come back tomorrow at 4 o'clock instead of doing a regular quarantini. We'll do a Taxi TV. Yeah, Colin, you're so pixelated. You look like a Picasso right now.
You can put the question mark back up if you want.
I don't even know how to do that, honestly.
Because my little picture up in the thumbnail in the green room looks really good.
Yeah, that's because it's seeing your camera on your end without going through wires and satellites. Anyway, everybody, I'd like to welcome our special guest today, Colin Wiebe. He's the president and CEO of SESSIONWIRE. You can get there at SESSIONWIRE.com. And I'm really excited to have him here on the show because he and I first met back in, believe it or not, Colin, I researched this over the weekend. You and I met in 1988 when you played live on stage with Randy Bachman at the Taxi Road Rally when Randy was our Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. So yeah, you and I have known each other for a very, very long time. And I want... Go ahead.
That was an amazing event. And that was the first time I'd ever played These Eyes on a grand piano just by myself with Randy.
Wow.
So what an incredible audience you had. And I remember it vividly. And I was very nervous because it was like you are as up close and alone as you possibly could get. And it was just Randy on a stool and me at a grand piano. And the fans and the taxi people were just so warm and so enthusiastic. It was just a thrill for me.
Well, we enjoyed having you guys a lot. And it's funny because Randy is like a living legend. And, you know, I mean, especially in Canada, not that he's not known worldwide because he is. But he's such a like regular guy. Say, sure, you need me for a gig, I'll be there. But I want to read something that I found when I was searching for a photo from that event. Here, I found an email that Randy sent me afterwards. He said, just thought I'd drop you a note and thank you for the great taxi weekend. This is so funny coming from, this guy's had like 25 #1 hits. He says, I learned so much more than I anticipated, and I'm spending the next few weeks slicing and dicing my songs, making stronger opening lines, trimming solos, creating better titles, and getting better singers to do my vocals. And that's from Randy Bachman. So for the rest of you guys, pay attention. Oh, man. Anyway, he also said, I'd like to thank all the great people who I met over the weekend for their compliments and conversations and hope to see everyone at the next rally. Happy trails, Randy. But I want to tell these guys about you before we go any further. Oh, good. At the moment, you're not horribly pixelated. You're just slightly crappy looking.
I'll try not to move.
Okay. Anyway, Colin is a taxi member like most of you, and I was recently reintroduced to him and SESSIONWIRE by another taxi member named Bill Threlkeld. So thanks for reconnecting us, Bill. I really appreciate that. And for suggesting that SESSIONWIRE would be a great sponsor for the upcoming road rally. You could not have been more right. When Bill told me about SESSIONWIRE, I was really intrigued because it sounded like an incredible tool for taxi members to collaborate much more easily and effectively than how most people do it now. You know, sending files back and forth. I'm going to send you a vocal tonight. Fly it in, do a mix, send it back to me tomorrow. Blah, 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 blah. Not very time efficient, that's for sure. So I can also see I missed one of my lines here. it gives you real-time collaboration with practically like nil latency and super good quality video and audio, unlike what we're having at the moment. So I can also see SESSIONWIRE being the perfect tool for those of you, and I know that many of you do, teach music lessons remotely, and for musicians who'd like to create some income from offering your services. Let's say you're a keyboard player, a vocalist, or you're a producer, whatever, or you're a top liner, whatever it is that you do. You could go to a place like Air Gigs, for instance, and put yourself out there, and every time you've got a client, use SESSIONWIRE to do it. I'm really intrigued, and I want to ask Colin some questions about using it as a teaching tool for like guitar teachers and stuff. And I know I sound like a commercial, but you guys know me well enough that I get really excited when we get a new sponsor for the Road Rally whose product or service is like a perfect fit. I really think that this is like for 80% of our members need what these guys have. And here's a little background on Colin. He's an entrepreneur in Vancouver, Canada. He's the founder and president of Fast Creative Inc., an online digital marketing agency and consultancy firm. He's also the CEO, founder and CEO, obviously, of SESSIONWIRE. He's had 5 nationally released CDs and a live DVD. Colin is best known for singing and playing with Canadian legend Randy Bachman of the Guess Who and the Bachman-Turner Overdrive for 2 decades. Highlights of gigs have included playing the Orange Bowl in Miami, Florida, as well as the NBC Orange Bowl Parade, the Governor General's Award on CBC, Canadian broadcast, for Neil Young's induction, TV and concert appearances in Europe, the opening of Tin Pan South in Nashville with Delbert McClinton, Michael McDonald, and Jimmy Webb, all-star lineup there, as well as playing many.
Fun gig.
Oh man! Oh, there I go. Now I can see the SESSIONWIRE logo beautifully up there. Did you put that up?
Yeah, I did. I thought instead of watching my pixelated face, you could at least see something.
Well, that looks great. That's not pixelating, so thank you for doing that. Anyway, as you've also played classic rock shows with the likes of Alice Cooper, Three Dog Night, the Doobie Brothers, Little River Band, and many more. Colin is prominently featured on the Randy Bachman Every Song Tells a Story DVD, and he's toured multiple times with Randy across Canada playing soft seat theaters. Colin also performed the show in Europe and throughout the U.S., so welcome, Colin.
Thank you very much. I should have given you the shorter bio, but hey, that's okay. I appreciate that. And one thing that I resonate with, you mentioned Tin Pan Alley, and that just brought back so many memories of being down there in Nashville and doing the Bluebird and the songwriting showcases and things like that. And I know for a lot of the taxi members that are watching this show, that's an important part of our culture and our lives, is actually writing songs and performing them for people and getting feedback, which is what taxi actually does, right?
Absolutely. And I'm humbled by the fact that Randy and you, the two of you with your incredible backgrounds, you're like such regular guys, there's no sense of like, well, I've done this and that, therefore I don't need taxi, and you've been a member. Randy was a member for many years. I think that's the sign of a true craftsperson, that your ego is pushed totally to the side, and you exert all of your energy on improving your craft. And so hats off to you guys.
Randy's a very diligent worker, and he is his work ethic is like none other. And so I learned a lot being with him for almost 2 decades. And I just want to back you up. I'm not a founder of SESSIONWIRE. I am the CEO and president, but we do have 3 founders. But what's key to that is I came into SESSIONWIRE beginning as pretty much an investor, and Randy Bachman's also an investor. And the reason is because we wanted something like this so bad. And I think I told you this story another time, but I was working on a song for a movie, and the producer had hired his son as an engineer, And no disrespect, but we rented a big studio for 3 days, and I put down my piano and vocal, and then we were doing the rhythm section, and it just wasn't happening. And it turns out that the rhythm section were friends of the producer's sons, and so I just kind of bit my lip and said, okay, we just have to do it this way. I was so distraught. After 3 days, we'd wasted so much money in this studio, that I actually thought I've got to try something. So I have a friend, his name's Phil Robertson, and he was pretty much one of the first guys who did the eDrummer online, where he was actually doing drum tracks for producers and big producers. And so I phoned him up. I said, I need some help here. Here's my piano vocal. I think I sent it in a Dropbox or a WeTransfer. And he played a couple of passes through. And when I got the tracks back, it was just like, oh, that's what I was missing. It's like he must have read my mind. It was just such a beautiful performance. And I thought, well, maybe I can do this with the bass track. So I phoned the current bass player in my band at the time, and I said, can you put a bass track down? Here's the chords. And sure enough, he played the track and sent me back the bass part, and I put it in with the bass and drums and took it to the studio the next day. And I just told the engineer, I said, fly this in, and whatever we did yesterday, let's just pretend that we're you didn't notice it was different. And I won't tell you the rest of the story, but the point is it made all the difference in the world. And the song you hear in the film is the bass and drums that were recorded remotely. So that was way back before COVID, before anything. And I just realized that, you know what, the world is open. And if we can figure out a way to do this, there's so many bedroom producers and musicians and songwriters that are working in isolation. We need to have this communication method, and to be able to do it remotely. When I heard of SESSIONWIRE, I just went, this is something I gotta explore. And so Randy became an investor, and actually him and I did our first, when they did the first launch of SESSIONWIRE back in 2016, Randy and I played. We did 3 or 4 songs together. And it started back then, way before COVID. It was only when this pandemic happened that all of a sudden we didn't have to educate people why they needed a product like this. And suddenly people were discovering the need for a tool like this. So this is why we're doing this show, is to allow people that you're connected with to realize, like, hey, there is an option, and the option is to get that in-studio experience using a tool like SESSIONWIRE. So that's kind of how it got started for me, and I was so excited about it. I decided, well, I'm going to go in there and help these guys the best I can, and so I think we've come a long way in the last year.
Well, I'm extremely impressed with it, and I absolutely believe that as much as people are collaborating, and I don't think any subset or group of people collaborate as much as taxi members do. They're ravenous about it. We've got a really tight-knit community and a large community, and they share a lot of their talent. Bass players playing on other people's stuff, vocalists singing on other people's stuff, a lot of co-writes, a lot of top-liners working with track producers, and everything is done pretty much by sending files. And so you send a file, you got to upload it, then download it on the other end. If the person's not in a time zone that you're in, then you may be going to bed, they're waking up, and it's just, everything is time consuming, but it's better than not being able to collaborate at all. But when I heard about SESSIONWIRE and then started really watching the videos and reading the website, and you guys were generous enough to give me a link and an account, which I haven't been able to use yet. Thank you very much, Road Rally. But I understand the value, because I am the kind of person that likes to be in the room and look at the bass player after he or she finishes the overdub and go, are you happy with that? And if they are, then we're moving on. And if they're not, have them be able to say, no, go back to the bridge. I want to show you when I come into the bridge, I was a little sloppy. And there's no time lost there. You don't have to wait until somebody else can listen in another time zone and then get back to you to let you know that the entrance to the bridge was bad. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I thought I would just pop back in. It's still pixelated, so sorry for those people that are watching. We did a test run a couple days ago and it worked perfectly, but
yeah,
I think once you get your SESSIONWIRE working, you may want to switch from Wirecast to SESSIONWIRE, but that's a whole other discussion.
It is.
But you make a really good point, Michael, that the human connection is really what's important when you're writing songs or collaborating. And it's that simple thing that we call that happy accident. It's like, hey, I just played a wrong chord, and you say, oh, I like that chord. What was that? Do that again. And suddenly it takes another, it takes a switch that you never expected. And sometimes the best songs are written that way, when things are just like happy accidents. So
I once had a guy play a chord like that, and it was by accident, and everybody in the control room went, what was that chord? And he goes, oh man, I don't even know. There's not even a name for this. So we pulled out a Polaroid, took a picture of his left hand so we didn't lose it. It was so cool. Can I play the video for these guys? Hopefully the video will work better than the incoming signal from Vancouver, just to give them a little 2-minute overview. All right, cross your fingers, everybody.
Remote recording is the new normal. Engineers, producers, and teachers can record studio-quality audio anywhere around the world. How cool is that? It's all possible using the world's best remote recording platform, SESSIONWIRE. Let's see how it works.
All right, here we go.
Don't worry if you're not technical. It's super easy.
Hey.
We're watching Brendan and Ross record music together live from opposite sides of the country. They're tracking studio-quality audio directly to their recording software. SESSIONWIRE works with all popular audio workstations. Our unique peer-to-peer studio-quality audio can be recorded live into your workstation with our new plugins and upgraded TalkBack system. You can drag and drop files back and forth with bank-grade security. It's like being behind the glass in a professional recording studio. Only you can be anywhere in the world. SESSIONWIRE, wherever you are.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for connecting.
Whoops, shoot, I forgot that other part was on. Well, do you want me to go back to it? I can.
That's okay. I think what we'll do is maybe get some questions from people. And I just wanted to let you in on something that's really exciting. We are just a few members away from our 10,000th SESSIONWIRE members.
Wow.
And so what I'd like you to explain to your listeners is that the SESSIONWIRE creator account is free, which means you get the functionality basically of something like Zoom for free. You can drag and drop files, you get the high quality video, you're able to connect and be part of the community, and all you have to do is sign up at sessionwire.com for a free account and you're in. Now, if you want to use the high quality plugins in your digital audio workstation, that requires either a one-time session pass, which you can buy like you would buy a pass for a gym, or you could buy a monthly subscription or an annual. Most of the producers, they just buy an annual subscription, and then SESSIONWIRE is basically baked right into their workstation and their workflow, so it's there when they need it. So what I'm suggesting here is I thought, you know what? We're getting close to reaching the 10,000 mark. I think we're at, Brendan just sent me a text here, 9,974.
Wow.
So if there's a few people on here that want to sign up, we're going to give an annual membership away to one of your taxi members, the 10,000th person. Would that be okay?
No, I'm not cool with that. Of course it's okay. Thank you. I was going to ask you, I think I put it in the letter that went out to everybody that we would give some form of membership away, and that I would give them an hour with Tom from my staff, who's our head of A&R, who's an incredible rock bass player, and that they could try it, do a remote session with Tom overdubbing bass on them. So yeah, even if they win one for being the 10,000th person, I would still offer Tom up, because I think it would just be cool to have somebody from the staff do it with a member and play a bass part. So
absolutely.
Before the show's over today, do you want people to start signing up now and see will you guys be able to tell on your end who hits number 10,000?
Yeah, we'll be able to see on our end. And if you saw that screen that I had up before, I'll just put it back on the Wirecast here. You just go to SESSIONWIRE.com and hit this button, Join Now for free. And
great.
That's all you have to do, and our guys are on the back end watching. And as people put in their emails, when we hit 10,000, they will let me know in my chat, and we'll award an annual SESSIONWIRE pass to the 10,000th member. And
nice.
You can hear my phone dinging like crazy.
Yeah. That's your guys at the office going, don't do it, stop, we've got a problem.
They're all disappointed. We were all looking forward to this today, and it's a shame that the video's not better, and my apologies out to the people watching. That's just one of those technical things that happens.
My apologies to you. Yeah, Colin and I were working feverishly for like a half an hour to figure this out, and frankly, there's nothing to figure out because all the tech on both ends is fine today.
Yeah, our tech is all good on both ends. It's somewhere in the actual Wirecast, I think, somewhere, and that's just stuff that happens. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get the count as it comes. Okay. So you saw the video, we just played it, and it shows that two people, one person was in Edmonton playing drums, and Ross was in Toronto playing guitar. And you can connect your digital audio workstations together via a plugin, and your plugin will send the high quality audio back and forth. You have a send and you have a receive. Pretty simple. And the unique thing about SESSIONWIRE is that it also has a talkback, which is separate audio altogether, so that you can be talking and communicating with your artist at the same time that they're playing the high quality audio. So it's exactly like working in a control room in a studio, and SESSIONWIRE has worked really hard to emulate that experience. And it's built by musicians for musicians.
So there's some questions popping up in the chat room, which I'll start feeding to you in a minute, and I've got some that I've already written out. So let me hit you with these. Let's see. All right. So if I were going to teach a guitar lesson on it, would I need to use my DAW? Let's say that you're the student, I'm the teacher, I've got SESSIONWIRE already. Do you need to download as the student a version of SESSIONWIRE, and do you need a DAW on both ends or not?
You don't need to have a DAW on both ends, and there's a couple of ways that you could do it. First off, as a creator with a free account, you can connect just like we're connecting now, only with better video. And you can communicate. If you wanted to bring in a second or third student, if you use the high quality audio and have an artist account, you can just send a link like you would send a Zoom link, and you can add more people into what we call session view. And by allowing people to join from their browsers, they would be able to hear your high quality audio, and they wouldn't require an artist account for that. It's interesting to note that whoever initiates the call, if they have an artist account, whoever they connect with gets all those features as well.
Wow, that's cool. So I've got a personal question. So can I use that account and output it to YouTube so that I can quit using Wirecast?
Well, that's exactly what we talked about this morning. You can, but you would need to use a third party like OBS or Streamlabs, which is something that we're going to be testing this week. So absolutely, that's the goal.
Great. So maybe even I could stick with Wirecast. It's really not Wirecast that's the problem. It's the Rendezvous that works with Wirecast that causes all the problems. So could I keep because Wirecast is essentially like OBS, just a little easier to operate.
Yeah. Well, we're going to test that and make it as easy as possible to stream out. But SESSIONWIRE is really built for a recording and collaboration environment as opposed to a performance environment. But it does work the same way. So you would be able to just output it to whichever is your way of communicating and getting onto YouTube, Facebook Live, all that kind of stuff. Because basically you would just be sharing what you see in your browser or in your application.
That makes sense. Good to know. Gee, I hope you get it working and tested before the road rally so I don't have to go through the kind of embarrassment that I'm dealing with today.
Another cool thing to note too, Michael, is that it's when you're sharing audio back and forth, it's peer-to-peer. So it's not going to the internet. It's actually going from computer to computer. That's what makes SESSIONWIRE unique. There's no other product like it that does that peer-to-peer connection, and it's encrypted. It's bank-grade encryption. So when you drag and drop your files, there's some people from the big major record labels and whatnot that are very nervous about security. Right. So we've made sure that SESSIONWIRE is bank-grade secure and that it's peer-to-peer, so it doesn't go up to any server.
How does that even work? I don't even understand that concept, because I would think the minute it leaves your computer and goes out, through Ethernet to the telephone company, it's not like I've got a direct wire to your office, although I wish I had one today. I mean,
I just got to notice we're at 9,990, so keep those clicks coming. We're almost there.
10 more.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm sending a note to somebody in my staff about editing the front of the show before we put it up on YouTube. Gonna need before it goes to YouTube. Okay, done.
Another thing that we found is really exciting is that some very, very well-known producers are using SESSIONWIRE for mix reviews. So they're putting up a mix, and then they're inviting the talent or the band, the record label, the manager, all through Session View, and they can all be there part of the mix. So when they're at the ending stages of a mix, you know what it's like. It's like it's almost finished, and it's, can I hear a bit more vocal? Maybe take the guitar down a bit, as if that ever happens. But you can have these mix reviews where they can be listening in real time to the high quality, studio quality audio. And so they're absolutely loving the ability to be able to do this with multiple stakeholders in the room. Just like when, the old days, you'd go into the studio and lower the lights, and somebody would order a pizza, and you'd put the album on and sit back and listen, and then you'd talk about it afterwards. Well, SESSIONWIRE, we can do that now.
You know who the most brilliant producer was, or I guess he's still active, Bill Simzik, who did Hotel California and all the Eagles stuff after that, including, he did, what was the one before Hotel California? I can't remember now. Anyway, Simzik did a lot of Eagles records, and he had a methodology whereby nobody was allowed in the control room when he mixed except his assistant engineer, because he needed him to label stuff or maybe drop a leader in somewhere or whatever. And Simzik would get it to the point where he was happy with it and now just needed to fine-tune the last little details. And he would invite the band in and hand everybody a legal pad and say, okay, everybody write down up to 3 comments. Then drop the legal pads over there on the producer's desk and leave the room. And he would look at the notes and go through and decide, that's a valid point. Rather than having people in the room and getting their egos bruised Well, I don't agree with you that the vocals should be louder. This way, he could just consume all that information and make those changes. So you guys need a button on SessionWire where everybody gives their comments and then they're muted.
Well, that's a good point that you make, because in the next version, we're at 2.0, but in subsequent versions that are coming out, we've got a full chat facility, and right now you already have the thumbs up and a lot of the emoticons, because obviously if somebody's singing, you want to give them the thumbs up, or it's like, stop, or and we're giving people the ability to create some of their own, which will be really funny, but that's for another show. So the session view, that is a browser-based link that you can send to each other, is kind of like the couch in the back of the studio. And the SessionWire app is the two main people that are connected, the person behind the glass and the person in the control room, and vice versa. And it's so cool, Michael, to be able to see when I'm playing piano and I see somebody's guitar track coming into my DAW from somebody that's miles away. It's like, how is this even possible? This is so cool. And there's so many different workflows that you can use for SessionWire, but for songwriters, I think one of the major ones is just real simple collaboration, where you record locally and then you're being produced by the person on the other end.
Yeah.
And then you just drag the file right onto their face. We call it the SessionWire face drag. So you would just drag the file right on your face and it zips straight over. And at the Road Rally, we'll give you a demonstration of all of this. We'll go step by step on how to actually do a writing session, how to do a recording session, how to do an overdub session, how to do a mix review, how to teach a lesson. All of these things are very, very simple with SessionWire. They just require a little bit of different workflow here and there, but it's exciting.
One of the people in the chat room asked a question that I want to go ahead and answer, because it really has nothing to do with SessionWire so much. And then I will start taking some questions, the first of which is going to be all about latency, because that one's popping up a lot. Anyway, Deb or Michael McCall asked, well, how do you pay the musicians on the other end, and how do you get a work for hire? That has nothing to do with SessionWire. And by the way, just found out a couple hours ago that AirGigs, airgigs.com, is also going to be a sponsor of the Road Rally, and I know that the guys at SessionWire are friendly with them, and now we're friendly with them, and it's just one big happy family, because to have the ability of AirGigs, you can go on there. I won't even use that example. You can go on there and search for a bass player to do an overdub and see profiles of bass players and hear samples of their work. And so with services like that, and there are several out there, but I believe that AirGigs is probably the one that's been around the longest. And they do allow you to communicate directly with the musician, which some other services don't. In this case, you can communicate directly with them. In that case, you'd pay probably through AirGigs. But if you're using SessionWire and you're going to hire Colin to play a piano part for you, you would just pay him through PayPal. And if you want a work for hire agreement, you just say before you start the session or before you agree to hire him, you say, are you comfortable signing a work for hire? And that would be the case with AirGigs. I spoke to their CEO on Saturday, and he said, yes, absolutely. We connect the client and the provider together so that you can work out the details of the work for hire beforehand. So now let's talk about latency, because that keeps popping up in the chat.
Let me just expand on that just a little bit. So with SessionWire, we have the community. So you go in there and you put in your profile picture. You can put up your bio, your videos. Bio is shorter than mine, by the way. That would be helpful. Just kidding. So you would put up your bio and your videos and some of your music and your links to SoundCloud, to Spotify, to your social channels, whatever. So you'd be searchable in there, and you would create a tag. So if you say, I'm a keyboard player, I'm a singer, I'm classic rock, that type of thing, all of these tags would be attributed to your profile. Then you would be able to search and discover and find people within the SessionWire platform. For hiring somebody, whether it's through air gigs or Sound Better or even Fiverr.com. There's a lot of different places where you can actually hire the musicians to work with you, but SESSIONWIRE is kind of going to be working with all of them. So for example, we're planning to work with Air Gigs, so that if you have an Air Gigs account, we'll have a badge in there. If you're a taxi member, you'll get a badge. All of these things are kind of new, and we're really planning to be agnostic and work with everybody. And in the meantime, a simple PayPal thing is an easy way to transact a deal between artists and producers. But as we grow the platform, as we increase the technology, we want to put intellectual property stopgaps in there. We're using blockchain. We've got a lot of things on our roadmap that we're going to integrate into the SESSIONWIRE community and the platform. But just know, as a taxi member, that we want to work well with all the different marketplaces that are currently out there.
The profile is public. Can you make it not public? We've had this discussion here. There are some creeps out there that when they see a picture of a lovely lady, that they will use the profile and contact them and get weird. And so we've, gone to some lengths here at Taxi to prevent that from happening and giving the members the ability to make that decision on their own. Can they block their profile from being public if they want?
Well, you have preferences. So obviously people like a Randy Bachman or somebody like that doesn't want to necessarily have their information out there for anybody just to contact them.
Right.
And so we are creating preferences that will allow people at certain levels. And the cool thing about SESSIONWIRE is you can put your own band together. So you can say, well, I want Michael in my band, and I want Robin in my band, and I want so-and-so in my band. And you can put them together in your list of favorites. Like in Skype, when you have all your contacts,
yeah,
and you decide who you're going to call, similar to that. And we're currently working on the new artist area in SESSIONWIRE to have those types of functionalities where you can only be visible to certain groups of people or however. But currently, I believe it's public for the time, and some people are just putting in weird names like they do in Discord, and you wouldn't find them they're not going to say who they are. They're only going to tell their buddies.
Well, if anybody would like Randy Bachman's cell number, check it out. I don't know if you can see that. There's a picture of me in probably around 1998. I flew up to Vancouver to do a taxi seminar at the Sheraton in the harbor. And Randy was so nice. He came all the way out from the island that he lives on and showed up just to support me. And I thought that was really sweet of him. So thank you, Randy. Anyway, yeah, I'll be happy for $5 a person. I'll be happy to give you a cell number later. Yeah.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
Private profiles are coming for artist members, and we're making a lot of improvements as we go. And one of the things that we've had great comments from people is the way that we've been able to listen to the customers and tailor make SESSIONWIRE for the professional musician and for the amateur singer-songwriter, the people that are really wanting to use this for what creative purposes that they want to share with the world, and that's what makes it so fun.
Well, I'm a fanatic I love when I'm in the studio working with as many members of the band live on a track as I can possibly get. It's every day this guy, every single day, gets in his car, sets off the alarm, never misses a day. Anyway, so if I wanted to produce a session and have a 5-piece band play live, is that any problem? And record it. I've got Logic on my laptop. Can I do that seamlessly?
Well, first of all, you've got a couple things that are going against you. One is, and we talked about latency, is the speed of light and the distance between people. But you also have, like we're experiencing now, internet, Wi-Fi, Ethernet cables. SessionWire works best when you're actually plugged directly into your router with an Ethernet cable. It does work with Wi-Fi too. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, Ross and Brendan were doing a SessionWire session while Brendan was in a plane 40,000 feet in the air coming back. Yeah, and it worked.
Oh, so he was using the plane's Wi-Fi?
Yeah. And it absolutely worked, and it was. We were excited on the team call this morning to learn that, and they did some screenshots and some capture. But in answer to your question about a full band, first of all, we have to think of workflow as opposed to trying to get everybody in the room playing together. The more important thing to do is to figure out how you want to record those elements. So with Session View, you can get multiple people in the room like we are right now. So for example, what I would do is if I'm playing piano and singing, I would have the whole band in the room with me, and I would start to play the song. We'd get some feedback. Guys would pick up their guitars or bass or whatever and start to look at the different, chord changes and feels, and the drummer would be there as well. And you can start to work through the song. When it actually comes to recording that, what you would need to do is to do it individually, so that you would connect with, let's say, the drummer, and you would lay down the drum track, and then the bass player would do the same, just like you were in a regular recording studio. The only difference is that recording at the same time. Now, it's going to come in future versions because we've got a lot of engineers that are working on this, because it's the holy grail of what everyone wants to do.
Yeah.
But you can't change physics and the speed of light. You can change people's perception. You remember when they used to do the time-aligned speakers in the arena? When you'd be at the sound desk and everything would sound good, but you went to the very back room and you would hear like 4 snare drums. And it was just like a cacophony of noise until they figured out how to time-align the speakers.
Yeah, we actually do that at the Road Rally for the ballroom because it's so deep.
So if you can think of SessionWire doing that remotely with different feeds and having kind of a control center, that's on the roadmap to try and figure that out. But it's not an easy task. I think we'll get there. But for the most part, what most people are finding is that they want to just adjust their workflow to make it work for them, instead of trying to get something that is trying to replicate something that in reality in the physical world right now with speed of light is just not physically possible.
Speed of light is what, 186,000 miles per second or something?
Yeah, it's got it written down here. Yeah, I had all these notes here because I knew people were going to ask. But
I mean, maybe we should call what's his name? I can't think of his name. The Tesla.
Yeah, well, we want to be the first with the whole Starlink thing, and SessionWire and Starlink, and that's going to change the way the speed of light and the latency and everything works. But most people that we're working with, SessionWire has the lowest possible latency out of anything that's out there. Yeah. And so when you combine that with the ability to orient your workflow to accommodate the way that you want to get your project, and I like to think of it as outcome based. So it's like, what do you want to do, Michael, by the end of this? Do you want to record a vocal, or do you want to lay down a groove? What do you want to do? How do we work together? And I think, for example, I was at the NAMM show, and I met a sax player, and it turns out he was the sax player for Prince, and his name was Adrian Crutchfield. And he said, "Hey man, if you ever want a sax on your record, hit me up on SessionWire." And I fast forward a couple of months, I was working on a tune. I said, "I'd just love to have a sax solo on here." And I thought, wait a minute, I'm going to hit up Adrian Crutchfield. And wouldn't it be cool to have Prince's sax player on my album? So I did. I connected to him through SESSIONWIRE, and sure enough, he played 2 or 3 passes, and I produced him. I said, "Oh, too many notes there, a few more notes here," you know, and I got a beautiful sax solo on my new album. And SESSIONWIRE and remote recording just opens up the world. That's something that never would have happened.
Yeah.
Never would have been able to have that if it hadn't have been for meeting him at the NAMM show and then SESSIONWIRE. And of course, for those people that want to know how do you pay these people, he didn't ask for any money because he had offered, but I sent him a real nice bonus from PayPal, as a gift for doing that for me, and it was just a real thrill for me to have him on my record.
Speaking of being on records, and this is a little off the SESSIONWIRE subject, but I meant to ask you this on Saturday. Randy made a CD, recreated all of his hits because he didn't own the masters, but he did own the publishing, and he wanted to be able to license those. Is that you singing?
On some of them, yeah.
Yeah? Oh, wow. I feel like I've met a rock star today.
Yeah, it was a little fun. We called them sound-alikes.
Yeah. I mean, they're like perfect recreations of the hits.
When we did Taking Care of Business, we played at the Orange Bowl on the 50-yard line. And it was a huge football stadium, obviously. But the latency or the slapback in that was so outrageous that it was impossible to play live. So we lip-synced. Hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but we lip-synced to Taking Care of Business on the 50-yard line of the Orange Bowl, but it was a sound-alike. And so you're right, we did all of the catalog because of those issues. So that was a lot of fun to recreate those songs. And what was fun about that was learning how he got some of those sounds. It's like, for example, that gallop that you hear on Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was actually a drum throne with hitting the drumsticks on a drum throne. And so just little things like that you learn as we were recreating these songs. It was so much fun.
See, the cool thing about Randy is that he's a great business person. And you're right, he's very serious and very work-oriented, but he's a great business person and a musician to his absolute core. But he does take care of business. I mean, that guy, first of all, he's a practicing Mormon, so when everybody's on the road partying with lady friends and drinking and drugging and all that stuff, Randy'd be up in his room working on his songwriting craft, and that's just his nature. I think he'd be like that regardless of religion or not. He's just built that way, and he's like the model that everybody else should follow. He's so easy.
You mentioned that he was a Taxi member, and I'll tell you a story that goes back, and this has to do with Taxi. We were on the road, and it was the middle of winter, and we were in Minnesota in one of those Holiday Inns with the dome on it, and they have kind of like almost like a pitch and putt on the inside. And we had a day off. We were playing the next day with Blue Oyster Cult and 38 Special. And so we had this day off, and I'm sitting in my room, and I got a knock on the door, and it was Randy. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Nothing." He says, "I need some help." And so he came into the room, and he had this big box of cassette tapes and envelopes and elastics. And if you remember the burritos that you used to make for Taxi, we started to make some burritos. And I remember I was addressing a bunch of these envelopes, and I got one in my hand, and it said, "To Brian Setzer." Now, if you remember Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats.
Sure.
It was a song that he had written called "Can't Go Back to Memphis," which is kind of like an upside down, shaken all over song. And I thought at the time, as I was sitting there, I goes, "This is a waste of a stamp." It's like Brian Setzer has so many different songs he could choose from. I mean, there's tons of songs from the 50s that would love to be re-recorded, and Brian Setzer's a good writer himself. Why would he want to do this song, is what went through my mind. Well, fast forward about 2 or 3 months, we were on tour in Florida, and we stopped for lunch, and there was a Sam Goody store there. And back when they used to sell music in retail stores. So Randy got on the bus, and he was wagging this bag, and he threw it at me and it landed on my lap. And I opened up the bag, and it was a Stray Cat CD. He said, "Colin, look at the back." So I turned it over, and there was "Can't Go Back to Memphis," Randy Bachman.
I've got to say, you do a great imitation. You do a great imitation of Randy's voice, I might add. That's a great story. But see, that just goes to show you, I think it was Wayne Gretzky that said you can never score a goal if you don't take the shot. Randy always takes the shot. And Randy will go to like New York and rent an apartment for a month and have 3 or 4 writing meetings every day. Then he'll go to Nashville for a month or two, 3 or 4 writing meetings every day. He never like rests on his laurels. Oh, does he have something like 25 #1 records or 25 charted or top 10s or something? It's an incredible track record. And he never even thinks of himself in that light. He still sees himself, I think, as like a struggling songwriter. Got to work on my craft more. Got to pitch more. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we play so many hits in our show, or we did, that even Cheap Trick didn't want us to open for them anymore. So
wow.
These guys have got way too many hits to follow, and so yeah, there's a lot of songs, and that's, for the people that are listening to this, the tenacity and the work ethic is really important. And but I also think too that the whole creative process and the collaboration process, you mentioned Randy having writing meetings and whatnot. I learned that in Nashville, and I used to be kind of the lone soldier, just writing myself and not really thinking about collaborating like on songs with numerous different people. I thought maybe my one songwriting partner, like Jagger and Richards or Lennon and McCartney. But as I started to explore the Nashville way of actually working with different people and coming in with these fresh ideas and people that would, completely twist your song around, and then after a while it was like, wow, the sum is better than, the whole is better than the parts, and it just turned out like it's a whole new experience. So I think now we have the ability to connect in more ways than just, getting on an airplane and flying to Nashville or flying to New York. These people are still there, and they're available, and many of the people that are on this call can connect with other singer-songwriters, and now you can actually physically do it in your home studio using a tool like SESSIONWIRE.
So talk to me about the workflow. Let's say you and I are songwriters, and when we finish the show today, we're going to try a co-write. How would that work using SESSIONWIRE?
Well, the first thing you would do is, after you've downloaded SESSIONWIRE, you would open up the application and you would call me, or I would call you, just like you would on Skype or FaceTime or something like that. And both our faces show up in windows similar to what we're seeing now, only mine wouldn't be pixelated. This is so embarrassing. It's
you don't need to be embarrassed. I'm the one who owns the show, man. It's me who should be embarrassed. But you look rather ghostly, and it's so funny. Sometimes it'll be like this, and then all of a sudden, click, you'll turn green, and then 30 seconds, I mean, literally like a total green screen, and 30 seconds later, you look fine. I don't know what the hell's going on, but you can bet that the folks at Wirecast will be getting a personal phone call tomorrow.
So you asked me about, I'll just put the share screen up. Well, actually, I won't bother. You would connect and decide on which workflow that you would want to use. So I'm a piano player, singer. So
yikes. Well, now we've got a problem. Let me text him. We made the decision. Let's go ahead with the show today anyway. I'm glad tech is so reliable. Let me open a window so I can find him when he reconnects. Well, in the meanwhile, I will so yeah, in the meantime, let's look. This is when Randy was probably much, much heavier than he is now. I was heavier than I am now, and what is going on with that 90s hairdo? That was on the side of the ballroom in the Sheraton Hotel in beautiful, and I mean beautiful, Vancouver. What a city. Love that city. No, not braces, just bad lighting. I think I haven't had braces since I was about 15. And that's why girls wouldn't talk to me in high school. Anyway, yeah, I cannot recommend going to Vancouver enough. It's a lovely city. The people are super friendly. The food is great. So much great sushi and really inexpensive sushi there, which was my favorite part of the city. Also, you know what? I'm going to play the full SESSIONWIRE, excuse me, the full SESSIONWIRE video now while we've got a little time to kill.
Remote recording is the new normal. Engineers, producers, and teachers can record studio-quality audio anywhere around the world. How cool is that? It's all possible using the world's best remote recording platform, SESSIONWIRE. Let's see how it works.
All right, here we go.
Don't worry if you're not technical. It's super easy.
Hey.
We're watching Brendan and Ross record music together live from opposite sides of the country. They're tracking studio-quality audio directly to their recording software. SESSIONWIRE works with all popular audio workstations. Our unique peer-to-peer studio-quality audio can be recorded live into your workstation with our new plugins and upgraded TalkBack system. You can drag and drop files back and forth with bank-grade security. It's like being behind the glass in a professional recording studio. Only you can be anywhere in the world. SESSIONWIRE, wherever you are.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for connecting. I'm just wondering if you could walk me through how you've got your SESSIONWIRE set up.
For sure, could. Which DAW are you using?
I'm using Pro Tools, but I also use Logic and Ableton.
No problem. It'll work with all of those. It'll work with any DAW. I have a Pro Tools session open, so we'll check it out here first. I'm going to drop the SESSIONWIRE send plugin on my master bus. It's got a trim knob and a bypass function. I'm going to play some audio, and you can tell me if you can hear it.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. That sounds like I'm right there with you. Can you tell me a bit about the audio fidelity?
The bit depth is 32-bit float, and the bit rate is 48 kilohertz.
What do I need to do to get my TalkBack set up?
To get TalkBack set up, you create a mono aux channel and drop in the new SESSIONWIRE TalkBack plugin. And as you can see, my meter is working on my side. It's got trim knobs for both send and receive, and an auto mute function. So when you play audio or record audio in your DAW, it'll mute the TalkBack.
How are you going to record the audio that I'm sending you?
Well, I've created an aux channel here that I can route to the input of another audio channel, and all I'm going to do is drop in the SESSIONWIRE receive plugin. And it's got a trim knob and a bypass, so I can adjust what I'm hearing from you on that channel.
Wow. So what if I wanted to send you a take like something I already worked on last night?
Real simple. You would navigate to that file in your Finder and drag it onto my face.
Cool. And if I wanted to just play it from my DAW, I would just hit play and make sure that it's routed to you, and it streams right into your session.
Correct.
Amazing.
SESSIONWIRE, wherever you are.
All right, I'm back. No, Colin, I'm just not getting you. I'm not picking you up from the waiting room. I don't know why. Very, very frustrating. Refreshed again. You can see his thumbnail. Yeah, but I'm not seeing. Try letting. I can't let you in without having the icon to click on. Very frustrating. I think maybe I'll send a copy of today's show to the good folks at Wirecast and let them see the quality of their service. I'm thinking that what we should do is I've got a quarantini scheduled for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So I'm thinking that we spend a big chunk of time tomorrow with the folks at Wirecast and have them figure out this problem, and we bring Colin back to answer questions tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Does that sound like a good idea to you guys? I'm waiting for the chat room to let me know because there is a little delay as always. All right. Let's do that. Okay, so tomorrow, 4 o'clock, be right back here, and we will continue with this because I'm really fascinated by this whole thing. And Colin's a great guest. I enjoy having him on the show. So, Colin, hopefully you can hear me. Thank you very much. I will see you guys tomorrow for a less exciting than this episode of the Quarantini Happy Hour. And with that, I bid you a fond farewell for the day. Bye-bye.